Okay. So there are two ways for you to create a Hangout Meet, and I know that all of that information has been shared with you. So the first way is to create what we're going to call a nicknamed room. And what this allows for you to do is make sure that when you create that nicknamed room and you share it with students, students are not able to join unless you are in that nicknamed room. That's going to be key if you're looking at, I want to make sure that the kids are using the space appropriately and that they're not in there when I'm not in there. And so to begin to create that Hangout Meet room, you're just going to go to meet.google.com, meet.google.com. And that is actually where your students will go to join your Meet as well. And it's as easy as, and you can see it right here on my screen, join or start a meeting. Join or start a meeting. And when I do that, it's going to ask me for a nickname or for a code. So for you, you can choose whatever nickname you'd like. And we did put that on our document. We fixed our document. And so you have this information now, but you can choose whatever nickname you like. Now for me, I have been using this for the last week and a half or so. And so I have actually created a nicknamed room, and it's just TSC-Margison. So that it's super easy for me to invite people to this room. I let them know what the nickname is, and they use that, and then they join that room. For my students and for you guys, what we recommend is using something like your school initials, and then maybe your last name and your grade level. So something that's super unique, because we want to make sure that you guys aren't crossing into each other's Hangouts, right? And that your students are just seeing what they need to see from you. So with this, like I mentioned, the students are not able to join a Hangout unless a teacher is present from this. So I want to show you what that looks like on the student side. So let me make sure that I get my student pulled up. So I'm now on my son's account. It looks the exact same, meet.google.com. And what you'll notice on his is it just says use a meeting code. It doesn't say like create, what did it say before? It said join or start a meeting. It doesn't say start a meeting for him because he doesn't have the ability to start a meeting. It's only going to let him join meetings. So if I say use a meeting code, and I type in TSC-Margison, at the bottom here, you probably didn't see it because it's very tiny, but at the bottom it says you're not allowed to start a meeting, which is fantastic because at this point, as the teacher, I'm not in there. So if I do start that meeting as the teacher, let me see if this will. So I'm ready to start my meeting as a teacher. I'm not going to join it yet, but I am ready to start my meeting as a teacher. And now I go back as Tyler. Now it lets him join. So it does give him the ability to join those meetings, but only if me as the teacher is present and I'm available. So that's good to know. And that is, again, creating a nicknamed meeting. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you guys can see this. That was this area here, creating a nicknamed meeting using meet.google.com with a unique nickname. Now, your unique nickname, I know we have some secondary folks in here right now. So for you guys, you could create different meeting rooms, nicknamed meeting rooms for each of your class periods. You could use just maybe a regular nickname for you, and you could hold office hours that way. But this way, you know that students are only joining that Hangout when a teacher is actually present. Okay, so beyond that, we can also schedule Hangouts, which is actually what we did for today. So if I schedule a Hangout, let me clear out my calendar. If I schedule a Hangout, it's going to give me a unique code, but that code can be joined at any time. So again, that code can be joined at any time if I schedule it through the calendar, which is fine if I'm meeting with adults, right? Or if I know that maybe I'm going to be sending it out to all of my first graders and their parents will be joining, we have a meeting code and everybody's good to go because I know that the kids would just be joining when I am present. So if I click on a day and I go to create that event, then I can add my time. And the time is really just for my reference or my attendees' references. That's not necessarily going to restrict them from joining ahead of time or restrict them from staying after or rejoining at any time. So, again, if I want to restrict my students' ability to join a hangout without me, then I want to make sure that I use those nicknamed meets instead of using the calendar. But maybe I'm meeting with an individual student right now. I don't mind if they have that conferencing link. So I add my time to my calendar. I can obviously invite them as a guest if I need to. And then I can also add, it says add rooms, location, and conferencing. I'm going to make that a little bit bigger. So as you see here, I also have add conferencing. And if I click that, it's going to automatically add that meeting code and that meeting room. It will also give me the phone numbers. If a parent wants to join by phone and not video, then they have a phone number there as well. And then when I'm ready, I just click save, and I have a lot of things on my calendar, but I have then my meeting time with my Hangouts meet and my code right there. So let's talk now about sharing these things with students, because once I've created those events, either it be a nicknamed room or a calendar event, I need to get that information out to students. So as a public service announcement, students in grades 2 through 12 have email. They're able to get to Gmail, sign in, and they have email. So you can always send your invitation there. I can also copy and paste that link into Canvas or into Google Classroom. I would caution putting it on your Google site. For elementary teachers, I would caution doing that because those sites are public. So keep that in mind. If I'm using a nicknamed meet, then the only thing that my students need is going to be that nickname, and they need to know that they need to go to meet.google.com. That's where they're going to start, and then they need that nickname. And maybe the nickname is something, a unique code or a unique nickname that I give them, 5 or 10 minutes beforehand, and I start it, and then they can join. If a parent tries to join your Hangout or your Hangouts meet, they're going to have to knock. We call it knocking. What that means is when they try to join, it will pop up a little screen for them. Instead of saying join, which is what it said for you guys this morning, it will say ask to join. And then on your end, it's going to pop up a little screen that says so-and-so is asking to join this Hangout meet. And you can click, deny or accept, and then they'll be able to enter that room. Parents will not be able to join nicknamed meetings. Parents will not be able to join nicknamed meetings. However, if you use a nicknamed meeting, if I do that, let me pull up my screen again, and I type in my nickname. When I do that, I know it's really small at the top, but when I do that on the URL bar at the top, it has created what I'm going to call like a traditional meeting code, which is meet.google.com/ and then the meeting code, WMR, and so on. That meeting code can then be shared with parents. If you have hosted a Google Meet, let me stop sharing my screen for just a second. If you have hosted a Google Meet recently, you'll notice that when you begin that Google Meet, it will pop up join information. It will say, hey, here's your meeting ID, and here's a phone number to join. That is the information that you would then share with parents if you want parents to join. Parents can still join the calendar invite. that works. But if you're looking at asking parents to join a nicknamed hangout, they will need that meeting code when you first start your hangout. Okay, so let's get to some of the things that you guys are seeing on your screen. So I'm going to kind of have you guys interact with your screen a little bit right now. If you hover over, where the hangout is happening, you should see, again, in the bottom middle, your microphone, a little phone to hang up, and your webcam. If you guys would give me a little thumbs up that you're seeing the microphone, the hang up, and the webcam down at the bottom. Awesome. So along that line there, you should also see where it says Hangouts Meet Webinar, and it's going to be over on the left-hand side. Right next to that, there is a paperclip. If you would click on that paperclip, that's going to give you two things. First, your meeting details, which is helpful because maybe I didn't write down that meeting information or the dial-in number, and I need to give that to a parent. So that's going to give you your meeting details, and you are going to be able to copy that and maybe email it or take a picture and send it out. But also, do you see where it says attachments? So next to that, you have attachments. I actually put two attachments in here. The first one is the Hangouts Meet TSC instructions that were shared a little while ago. I don't remember exactly what day we shared those, but those were shared a little while ago. And that's that's the rundown of Hangouts Meet, right? And then below that, you'll also see the Hangouts Meet outline. That's the outline that I was working off of before. And you guys can click on those, and then you'll have them as reference for after this. That's where the the recording is going to go. If you're not seeing the attachments, because I see some of you are not seeing attachments, I will make sure that you get those. I'm going to just go ahead and copy those attachments and put them right here in the chat. So if you're not seeing the attachments, you should see a link that just popped up in the chat, and those will be available there for you. Okay, so again, going along the bottom bar there, so we have our Hangouts Meet webinar, we have our microphone, leaving the call, turning your webcam on and off, and then we have where we see closed captioning over on the right-hand side. Next to closed captioning, I have present now. I was just presenting my screen. When I choose present now, you are able to choose presenting just a single window in Hangouts, or you can present your entire screen. So just depending on what content you want presented, make sure that you choose the right option there. If you're familiar with Screencastify, it's the same thing with like recording your browser tab or recording your desktop. So let's say I want to use, I've got a new laptop from this school year, and I have a pen, and I want to actually be able to write on my screen and for my students to see that. When I go to present, I want to choose my entire desktop so that everybody can see that writing that's happening on my screen. So it's basically like a digital whiteboard. I know we've had people ask that. I've seen in forums that they want a digital whiteboard with Hangouts Meet. You guys have that available to you already because it's already built in on your laptop, which is awesome. Next to that present now, I have 3 dots, and you guys should see those 3 dots as well. And those dots are going to allow you to change the layout of your Hangout. And I want you to keep in mind that layout and what you're seeing on the screen, aside from when somebody is presenting, the layout is user specific. So your students would choose sort of what layout they're seeing of those webcams. And we'll get to that grid view layout in just a second. But they are going to choose their own layout. Underneath that, I have full screen. I also have the option in this menu to turn on closed captioning. And then I have settings. These settings are going to be important if students are trying to troubleshoot their own maybe potential sound issues. I know for me right now, I have headphones plugged in, but I also have an external microphone. And so I needed to make sure that my external microphone was chosen as the one that's listening to me. And then also that my headphones are going to be the one that I'm hearing from. So you might want to run through that option, or at least just ask your students, can you hear what I'm saying? And if you are going to ask them to participate in terms of them actually talking from their microphone, then obviously have them do a sound check with those microphones as well. They can always use their laptop for the webcam and their headphones to listen, but they can also call in on their cell phone too. If they have a cell phone, obviously, or if their parents do, they can use the phone for audio if they don't want to use their laptop, or maybe their microphone's not good on their computer or something along those lines. Okay, so moving up to the top of our Hangout, and I already pointed this out before, but in the top right-hand corner, you're going to see you and your webcam. And then you're going to see the chat window. And I know you guys are already in there, which is awesome. And the Connected Learning team has been hopefully answering some of those questions. And then we should see people. So we have 54 people in here right now, which is awesome. And then after that, we have our grid view. So we do now have grid view available. And I believe Hangouts Meet is also starting to build that into their platform. So just stay tuned, because some of these changes might be happening. Obviously, when all of this stuff happened, Hangouts, me, and a lot of other companies said, okay, so now how can we support K-12 students and how they're going to use this stuff? So, the extra controls with our nicknamed meetings are going to be super helpful now. And that is something new that just came out last week. So I'm going to go back to my outline, and I see some of you are already in the outline, which is super awesome. I have the option to record my meeting as the teacher. Students do not have the option to record you or record the meeting. So I know we've had some questions come up about if I'm using copyrighted material, or I don't really want the students to be recording what's happening because it might be a private conversation or something like that. Students do not have the opportunity to record a Hangout Meet, so that's good. But you as the teacher do have the option to record that, which is, I have used the recording the last 2 days, and I'm telling you, it's awesome. It's super awesome. So to start that recording, back at the bottom where we saw those more options and the 3 dots, at the top, you would see Start Recording. And that's going to then allow you to record that Hangout Meets video. When you record, once you end that recording, Google is processing that video. Any chat that happened during that recording is going to be sent to you along with the recording in an email. And I think yesterday I had a 20-minute hangout that was recorded, and it took 6 minutes for it to email me. So it's fairly quick. It will email you. It will also create a folder in your Google Drive it's called Meet Recordings, and it's going to put all of that information in there. So if you're looking for maybe just a way to record what's happening in your class, or you would like to record some lessons for the students that maybe couldn't come during that time, this is a really great option to be able to do that. We already talked about presenting, and so that's obviously a great way to present some of the information that you might need to be conveying to students at this time. I have also added, just as a side note, I have added some infographics that have been shared. There's definitely not a shortage of infographics about Hangouts Meet right now, but you are welcome to share any of this information with students. There are some infographics about maybe some Hangouts Meet etiquette for your kids. So as you saw when you came in, I had a welcome screen that said, hey, mute your microphone. And that's just so that I can make sure that you guys are quiet so that everybody can hear what I'm saying as well. The last piece that I want to talk to you about is some controls that you have as the teacher to manage your students, we'll call it. We'll call it managing our students. So I'm going to try to present, and hopefully you guys will be able to see some of this information on the side here. So I can see all of my participants. I'm able to see all of my participants over on the right-hand side. And as the teacher, again, students would not be able to do this, but as the teacher, I can come in and let's say, for instance, we'll call out Chad. Chad is not being respectful in our Hangouts Meet webinar, and I would like to either mute him or remove him. And so I can mute Chad, and Chad is already muted, so I don't have to worry about doing that. But right next to where I mute him, there is a little circle with a line through it, and I can actually remove him from the webinar. Now he can come back into it, but it is going to let me know when he comes back into my webinar. This will be the same controls that you have if a student begins to present. So maybe you have students sharing and Johnny is sharing his screen and he can't figure out how to stop sharing his screen, something along those lines. You will have the option to remove him as a presenter. So then it'll just turn back to his webcam. I can also pin any students, or I can pin a webcam to that main screen, which is what I am right now. I'm pinned so that I can see myself the whole time and you guys can see me, and you guys are able to pin your screens as well. But as the teacher, I do have some control over being able to mute students as well as being able to remove